So, what a pleasure to talk about how to thrive. And there are many ways to thrive, of course. And I think that this week you had a fabulous opportunity to see different ways to thrive. So, just as a reminder, we will be able to have you ask questions in the chat. And I just want you to listen, learn, and just let's all of us connect today. And this is all about prioritizing you and about spending time to give yourself some focus on self-care. So as Nicole mentioned, my name is Sharon, and why wellness? I think you're getting the sense of that all week, and hopefully many of you already engage in different strategies that promote your sense of who you are, your sense of physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, relational, financial health. And there are many ways to do those things. And you've been doing some physical activity, you've done nutrition, what else is it tomorrow? Remind me.
We have sleep and skincare.
Fabulous. So, and these are all incredibly important ways holistically to be your best self and to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Because as my dean always says, you can't pour from an empty cup. So if we're going to serve others, including our family members, our friends, our colleagues, and our patients, our customers, whoever they are, we need to make sure that we are first taking care of ourselves. It's just like the airplane thing too, put your own oxygen mask on first before you help another, or you won't be able to sufficiently help them. So I'm going to talk about positivity and gratitude. And actually gratitude I see as part of positivity. And some of you may think that positivity is kind of Pollyanna, that one should just be positive. And while there's some truth to that, and you'll hear that as I speak, you're also going to see some of the research around it and some of the ways in which positivity can really enrich your life and inspire you to be your best self and to take good care of yourself. Then I'll do a little checklist where I'm going to give you a chance to just reflect a few minutes and maybe do a little activity on paper, pen, or on your phone or in your computer, etc. We'll do a cultivating gratitude activity and then some questions. And I'm actually going to show you a little film too that I think you're going to love if you haven't already seen it. So my background is multifaceted. I have been incredibly privileged throughout my career. And, I've had a lot of great mentors along the way. I've had a lot of fortune, a lot of blessings, and it's given me a plethora of opportunities to really develop myself in a way that's aligned with who I am and what I ultimately feel called to do. So my work is in behavior and organizational change, and I'll say more about that shortly. It is also in mental health and physical health and spiritual health, just overall holistically being committed to ongoing development for yourself, and also addressing where there are weaknesses and where there are things that are holding you back and where there are barriers and struggles. And I was supposed to share one interesting thing about myself. So years ago, decades ago, in fact, you probably, if you're relatively young, have never heard of Geraldo Rivera, but he's actually a journalist on one of the networks still. He's kind of a controversial and can be contentious. But anyway, he used to have a talk show. It was well known, and I was on his talk show. I was at the time working as a sexual assault nurse examiner in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and had an opportunity to be on the show. And the topic was, should rapists be castrated? Now, they wanted to make this entertaining, as they always do. This is a very serious topic. But I joined a Johns Hopkins researcher who was in favor of that, primarily to change hormone levels and to reduce the testosterone flow and potentially aggression. I took the perspective along with a victim that I brought, or a survivor, great friends now too. She was in college at the time in Minneapolis, and she's back in Chicago. But she took the perspective that is not treating the underlying problem of just control and violence, etc. And then there was a guardian angel from New York City on too. So it was quite an interesting show. And it felt like you were treated like a celebrity. But anyway, that was my one sort of fun fact. So let me keep going here. I want to do a little poll with you all right now, and I'm going to get Nicole's help. But I wanted to just spend a few minutes on what you know about and how you would rate your own happiness. So there's 4 questions that I'm taking from a scale that's titled the subjective happiness scale. And the first question, if you'll go ahead and just think about a scale of 1 to 7, 7 being the highest, very happy person, and 1 not a very happy person. In general, I consider myself, and we'll just watch and see how your scores come up. And if you don't know how to do this, it's right on the screen. You just choose your choice. Oh, we've got a 6, we've got a 5, a few 6s. Give people, oh, there, we're starting to see some action here. So we have some 5s, 4, 6s. Anyone else want to respond? We'll go to the next question then. So the next question is, compared to most of my peers, I consider myself, same scale. Oh, we already have answers. So we have at least a couple of people who feel less happy. And I'm really glad you're on so we can talk about that with some strategies. And we have somebody who sees themselves as really happy. That's fantastic. So let's go to question 3. Some people are generally very happy. They enjoy life regardless of what's going on, getting the most out of everything. To what extent does that characterize or describe you? So some 3s, 4 or 5. Okay, and then we have 1 person, a great deal. Okay, and our last question is actually reverse scored. So you just know that this one's the other way because it's written in a negative way. So it is, some people are generally not very happy. Although they are not depressed, they never seem as happy as they might be. To what extent does that describe you? So sort of the flip end of it, which we'd expect. And generally speaking, we have more people that had responded this time now. 17 of you have responded. So that's great to see. So we can go ahead and end the poll. And I'm going to just share with you if you happen to have scored yourself on all 4 items, which would have been a 7 being the highest in each case. And that last one, you just reverse your score. So if you said a 7, it'd be a 1, a 6, a 2, 5, 4, 5, 3, and then a 4. But if you were to add your scores and then take your average, you would be able to see what your average score is. And I can tell you that when we look, this is a psychometrically sound tool scale that was developed a number of years ago. And just by example, so college campus, there's several college examples of students with big numbers too. And the scores range, the average score ranges somewhere between right around 5, between 4, upper 4, 4.9, that kind of thing, to 5. When we looked at, or when this study looked at a group of people from the community, their score was 5.6. So adult community sample, and then a retired community sample was also, of over 600 people, was also about 5.6. So it looks like college kids are the least happy, for example. And even then, it wasn't a low score. It looks like it's, between 4 and 5 and right around 5. So that's above the average or the middle of the scale. So that's good. Our scores today could easily be affected too by COVID and by the unrest in the country and the uncertainty that we're all experiencing right now, which is on many levels very frightening. Oops. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself. As I mentioned, I've had a very privileged life, I feel, to some extent, although I didn't start out with the best of privilege. My mother was a high school dropout because she got pregnant and had to get married at a very, very early age. She grew up very poor. So I've had some hardships along the way. My parents worked very hard, though, and gave me the tools I needed to be successful. And then I had some other really important sort of education-driven role models along the way. But I started my journey in critical care, realizing I liked critical care because it's compartmentalized, and you just get your little room with your assignments and you're good to go. But what I quickly faced was saturation with my own growth, along with recognizing that, wow, if we could help people earlier before they end up very ill and before they have irreversible damage or disease and disability, we would be a lot better off. And I found myself really wanting to go to the other end of engaging in prevention strategies, working in communities and working in ways that I could make an influence rather than just fix the problem in the temporary moment in critical care. So at the time I was exploring different opportunities, particularly mental health, because I believed, and I still do more than ever, that there's a lot of roots in our illness around behavior and mental health. So I moved into that world and became an advanced practice nurse in psych. I also do research. I've done a lot of research. I've served in leadership roles that I was able to execute both the research that I loved around health and wellness and mental health, and also around evidence-based practice, which was the other hat I'd worn in the last 15, 20 years of my career. Because when you look at my experiences about behavior change and about change in general, and as a change agent, an expert in change, I realized that to make change happen in organizations, you use some of the same tools that you do when you work with one-to-one and trying to help people understand the reason, find that value and purpose in the meaning of what the change can have for them, and then working with all the factors that can facilitate change. So I found that those two go hand in hand. And I also discovered that a lot of evidence doesn't get translated. And in fact, if it did, we would be out of a job, because we, first of all, would have much healthier patients. Second of all, we would be pillars of health. We would be walking without any physical problems. We would be emotionally stable. We would be mentally stable. We'd be financially secure. We'd be in perfect relationships. And we would be robots, right? Because that's the beauty of human beings, is we are not robots, and we suffer. And suffering is a part of the human existence. And pain and growth comes from pain and suffering. So this quote I just love, as I've learned in my own experiences, and I've become an integrative health coach too, nurse coach actually, but I've really come to believe that mindfulness and being present and really understanding your purpose in life is where you can gain satisfaction and be your extraordinary self. And that being negative, the opposite side of positivity, draws negative energy. It draws negative relationships. It draws negativity from the people around you, and your perceptions become negative. And so this quote by Wayne Dyer, who was just a great self-help humanist, and he died a couple of years ago, unfortunately, but he was a motivational speaker, wrote amazing books, one of which was probably the bestseller of all time, one of the bestsellers of all time, but really to help people understand the human condition. And this quote really just sits with me, and it's, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So when you get out of your head and your own narrow focus and one lens, instead try to sit back and try to look at things more holistically, try to even look at it from a person that you normally would disagree with from their perspective. And when you try to just really expand on who you are and try to expand who you want to be, everything you look at starts to change. And you start to become a different person, essentially. Same core soul, but a different person in terms of what you want with your life. So for me, this is among the most important things. So I wanted to just share a few statistics with you. I'm a scientist, and it also helps us believe it when we see it in data. So first of all, nurse stress and dissatisfaction are very important factors in nurse burnout. They're actually very important in health care right now for many clinicians, including physicians. In fact, the National Academy of Medicine launched a campaign, which our dean has been a part of a couple of years ago now, to really address resilience in clinicians and mental health in clinicians to avoid burnout, mental illness, and suicide, which we were seeing increasing. And nurses, sadly, when you look at a 10-year trajectory, which Judy Davidson published in February in Worldviews on Evidence-Based Nursing, for a 10-year period, nurses have had higher suicide rates than the general population, and it has remained there. So if you want to learn a little bit more about that, I encourage you to take a look at that paper. But it matters, and it leads us to leave the profession, which we don't want to lose. We are in this profession because we're compassionate, caring souls who want to help people figure out where they're at with whatever health problem and move forward to become their best with their best quality of life. So it does matter. Management matters too. When we look at management, and this is probably in every industry, not just nursing, but the manager can make a person's job fabulous or not. The manager leader alone can influence a person to leave their job too. And the style of really supportive with high emotional intelligence and wanting to promote autonomy and promote and inspire your staff to be their best and to be able to make decisions and to be able to try different things and not to be perfect. Those are the kinds of managers that just inspire and compel their staff to want to stay, even when jobs could be more higher salaries and better benefits. They will stay with a charismatic leader. And it also is their support they give them when there are times of stress too. So like right now, how the managers are helping their staff manage COVID and being flexible and nimble and understanding, especially when there's so many issues around families needing different schedules maybe and different work life because their kids are home. So that leads to nurses wanting to stay and others as well and not burn out so quickly. Sadly, when we look at the data, and I've done a number of studies on this, and I'll show you a study that we did several years ago at this point, but the data repeatedly show when these studies are conducted that nurses are at risk for poor health due to suboptimal health behaviors, whether that's physical activity, poor dietary, high stress levels, poor sleep, which comes from rotating shifts, night shifts, and changes in homeostasis, basically, and biomarkers like cortisol levels, like circadian rhythms, like neurotransmitter functioning, and actually even antibody functioning. When you look at the impact of not having good, solid health habits like sleep, it impacts a nurse and other people that have these kinds of schedules in a way that can be detrimental to their health. So one thing that I'm working on with a group of people in the country is to try to look at creative schedules, creative strategies that get at how we can promote 24/7 care for our patients, but also provide nurses the healthiest and safest environments for them and their patients. Because we also know that unhealthy nurses and tired nurses and fatigued nurses, exhausted and stressed nurses also report higher levels of medical errors or higher rates of medical errors. And one really popular and growing Western approach to managing stress is mindfulness and mindfulness-based stress reduction and meditation and contemplative practices where we can really focus on being in the here and now, focus on the present moment, focus on not spinning out of control with anxiety into what I'm going to do next or regretting and spinning on what I just did, but staying in the present moment, which helps our mental health substantially. And there's some really good research on this. And I know that you already had a session on this, but there's some really good research on the benefits of this. I mentioned nurse wellness, including what Dean Melnick has done and others, has been linked to the higher likelihood of medical errors. And this is self-reported, so it might even be higher. So self-reported nurses will report that as their self-care goes down, their stress goes up and their fatigue goes up. They report more medical errors. And it's especially higher in those nurses that report they have higher scores of depression symptoms. I mentioned shift work, and that also shows decreases in performance and productivity. And then shift work also affects social and family relationships. If you really want to have a life, you can't just stay in the schedule of sleeping during the day, every day of the week. That is the best thing to do from a health perspective, but it impacts these other factors, and it impacts then our joy in life. And I'm going to speak to joy shortly. The other thing that is kind of scary is that for nurses and other shift workers who have worked several years of straight nights, their risk of developing some of these diseases, including breast cancer, goes up. So it's another reason why we have to attend to this as a very serious issue with some really creative, innovative solutions that promote the nurses and non-nurses, all the other staff that work rotating shifts, their health and well-being. And then, as I already mentioned, we certainly have COVID that we're dealing with. So this was a study that a group of us did a number of years ago. It's several hundred, if not, it might have been a couple thousand nurses. I can't remember how many actually completed this, but we had them self-rate a number of demographic variables. And also, this grew out of a study we did before where we realized there was a good relationship between health promoting strategies in their lives and stress. And as you can see, this is called a scatter plot. If you're not familiar with a scatter plot, on the y-axis, which is the axis that goes up and down, those are the scores plotted, if you can imagine the dots, plotted for health promotion lifestyle behaviors. And the higher the score, the better. And then over on the other axis, the x-axis, which is the lower axis, this one right here, you can see that this is stress levels. And so the higher the score here, the higher the stress. So either this slope goes just like this, and this is a beautiful scatter plot, by the way. And as you see, as a nurse rated their health behaviors, the higher that went up, the lower their stress was. Conversely, it could be that the higher their stress was, the poorer their health promoting behaviors went. So by and large, this shows us that it actually could be either way. Does stress impact us not to health promote? Or does health promoting factors that we do no matter what help reduce and protect us from stress? So either way it could be. So I want to talk to you now about positivity. I'm shifting then, so I've talked to you just a little bit about my own background, and I've talked to you about what we know about what leads to nurses burning out and what leads to exhausted nurses and what leads to mental health problems. And we know that it happens frequently in nursing, and it also impacts patient care. Now I'm going to talk to you about some strategies you can use to really thrive in your career, to thrive in your personal life, and to be really motivated to have work-life balance and to take care of yourself. So I'm going to talk about positivity. And positivity is a concept that grew out of Barbara Fredrickson's work from the University of North Carolina. And what she discovered, she was focusing on, this was an award-winning book too, and what she was really focusing on was trying to develop a formula for happiness. And she preferred to call it positivity for the reasons you'll see shortly, but which is also why I wanted to first have you rate yourself in happiness. But she refers to it as positivity. And what her data has shown with rigorous studies is that having 3 times more positive emotions than negative emotions throughout your day leads to emotional happiness. And we'll talk about that. And this work has shown up with depression, and it's in multiple areas of well-being, which I've already talked about. There's physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, financial, and relational types of well-being, all of which can be impacted by being positive and by focusing on having positive emotions all day. And she herself thought the word happiness was overused and wanted to provide a word that might have more meaning to people. So there are 10 of which I want to talk about. And the first one is serenity. And I think the morning activity you did today was all around promoting serenity. And so serenity is the end result of reducing negative stress and distress, and because you're countering it with positive alternatives. And that's what we want to do. We want to counter stress and distress with positive alternatives that can improve and promote our mental health, our well-being, and help us experience joy and experience the amazing gifts of life. So serenity can be accomplished in multiple ways, but having meditation practices, mindfulness practices, relaxation practices, guided imagery, for some people it's just being connected to nature. For some people it's just going for a walk. For some people it might be listening to music, but whatever brings you to a place of serenity where you feel you're not being stressed at the moment, you feel like you're managing your stress, And so research has shown, and maybe you heard this morning for some of you that were able to participate, that even 20 minutes of mindfulness, deep relaxation each day in a safe place, in a place where you can be not distracted, can promote mind and body health with good outcomes. So I encourage you to do that. And truthfully, I will tell you, it has been a lifesaver for me as far as finally cultivating a practice that I've been able to sustain. It took me decades to get there, but I have a practice now that is really, truly life-saving. And the second one is interest. So we all need to have something we're interested in doing. I mean, we need ongoing interest. We need to be able to have a new set of challenges that we face to develop new skills throughout our lives. Otherwise, we become complacent, bored, unfulfilled, and basically not as happy as we could be. So it's important to cultivate something in your life that brings your attention to a new place, that captivates you in new ways and fills you with a sense of possibilities. The third one is hope. And you know hope. Hope is what we hopefully bring to our patients. Hopefully, hope is that reflects the yearning that things will be better. Wow, is this a time that we've got to grasp onto hope? There's so much uncertainty, and yet we need to maintain hope that things will get better, and that we have the resources, and we have the leaders, and we have the capacities, and we have the incredible willfulness as a society and as a country to get through this. That's what hope is all about. So it's focusing on the pros of getting through this and not the cons, not the negatives, but focusing on the pros. The fourth one is inspiration. And inspiration is, I love this definition, it's involving witnessing human nature at its best. Isn't that awesome? Witnessing human nature at its best. That's what inspiring means. And so, for example, maybe for you, it is seeing somebody do something really heroic, telling a story. Maybe it's seeing something on television that just really spurs you on. Or maybe it's your own children, because children are so non-conditional, and they're so sensitive, and they're so playful, and just watching them gives us a spirit of hope and inspiration. So inspiration is a great way to stay positive. The next one is awe. And awe is that feeling of being absolutely overwhelmed by beauty. And so maybe that's a sunset for you. Maybe it is the ocean. For me, the ocean is my happy place. And in fact, personally, my husband and I go to the ocean with a fair bit of regularity. He's been injured lately, and we had a trip coming up, and he can't go. But he's encouraging me to go anyway, so I'm going to go for a weekend retreat by myself, just to spend time on the ocean, where I can be free to meditate. I can just walk along the beach. I can just sit in the sun. I can do my meditations on the beach. But for me, that's my happy place. So what's your happy place where you have this feeling of awesomeness? When I look at the massive ocean, I feel like a tiny object. But I like that feeling because I feel like I'm together and united with the world, with the universe, actually. So just think about what it is that brings you that awesome feeling. And then amusement. What makes you laugh? Who makes you laugh? Do you seek out those experiences in people? Are they your besties that make you laugh? For me, they are. I have two best friends in Minnesota. I text with them every day almost. And when I see them, though, we have some amazing time. How about occasionally, do you have a belly laugh? Occasionally, my husband will say something really just ridiculous. And I'm like, what? And so we just start laughing. And that laughter is just so contagious. And it's almost exhausting after you've done having a really good laugh, but it feels so good. And again, it brings you that positivity. That's why some people think it's important to smile. Smile right now. Smile and just feel the gift of being able to smile and to hold some really amusing and just happiness inside of you. Positivity. Maybe you have a favorite comedian too. Some people, or do you have a favorite just kind of a binge show that you like? That you like to just watch, and it's stupid, and you've seen every episode more than once, but you still laugh at it, and you still get just amusement out of it. Another way to bring yourself to positivity and reduce stress. And then gratitude, and I'm going to just say a few words about gratitude because I want to bring us to a little bit more work with gratitude. So gratitude is that feeling of appreciation when we experience something really good come our way, or when we share something with someone else. But it's that gift that we have all day long. And I'm going to show you this video at the end that brother, what did they do with it? Brother David, get his last name here. I'll find it and show you. David something, I can't remember it because he is a gifted speaker, and he has a very famous YouTube or a TED Talk on his gratitude series. But he talks about gratitude as every moment you can bring gratitude to your life, because every moment brings an opportunity that we can be grateful for. Sometimes the opportunities are more challenging and difficult, as they are, but it's still an opportunity for us to learn and grow. And if we stay in the present moment and just look at every moment as an opportunity, we can stay calm and stay mindful and stay peaceful and sort through what we want to be and have in our lives. So when was the last time you felt grateful or thankful? Maybe you're going to say just a little bit ago. And when is the last time you shared your gratefulness and thankfulness with someone else? I don't know if you've seen this experiment that's been done, and it's on YouTube or the internet in general, but they brought this group, these researchers brought this group of people into this study. They didn't know what they were going to do, but they had to write about someone they were incredibly grateful for. And they had to write like a page or more. They just keep writing about what that person meant to them, why they were so amazing. And then when they were done, they called the person and they had to read it to them. And they were like, what? These were some people across the world too. So one person actually even had to wake up a family member. But wow, what a great experience to have somebody call you and say, you're the most inspiring person in my life. You have been so meaningful to me. You've done so much for me. I mean, wouldn't that be great? And wouldn't you want to share that? So another way to think about it. 8 is joy. And joy is about that bright light bursting out of the darkness. And for whatever that is for you, when you just feel like, oh, this is so fun. I just love being here. And for some people, it's just watching children. For some people, it's being with their grandchildren. For some people, it's doing fun things like sailing or just going for a bike ride. Sometimes I go for a bike ride and I just feel incredible joy because I get to ride and just feel so free. So for whatever it is for you, what brings you joy? What are the things in your life, the people in your life that bring you joy? And can you relive times of joy through warm memories? Especially if you've lost someone, can you bring them back to your life by having incredibly warm memories? It can be humor too, just great family times where we did stupid things as family members, or you have great stories as you were growing up of what your dad or mom or what you did as a group. And those can bring us incredible joy. And then the last two, the one is pride. And pride is that feeling that is generated by being successful, by doing something that we've invested a lot of time in, and that's being a nurse. I am so proud to be a nurse. I'm so proud to say that I am about compassion and caring and kindness and helping people manage suffering and change in their lives that is hard, but is going to be important for who they are and their well-being and their ability to move on and enjoy their life for whatever that's going to be. That I'm so proud that I get to do that every single day. And so we want to think about pride as a way to reinforce that continued work, that continued giving, whatever it is for us. And that helps us succeed in even the toughest challenges because we know we can do it. And then lastly, love. And love reflects that deep attachment and attraction we have for people, activities, ideas, experiences, and things in our lives. So for example, I'm going to read a list. How many of these do you love? Do you love a parent? Do you love a child? Do you love a spouse or a partner? Do you have love for a friend or more than one friend? Do you love pets or other animals? Do you love music? Do you love learning? Love of a higher being, a spiritual higher being? Travel, nature, cooking, and good food, culture, the country. Do you have a love of our country? Do you have a love of our freedoms that we are so privileged to have? And do you have a love of life itself? Having a love of life itself brings you positivity. And you may have a whole list of other things that are important to you. And is love sufficient? Some people say it is not sufficient, but it is that you need to have more than love, but it is absolutely essential as part of the ingredient for change and the ingredient to be able to be positive and to have emotions that convey hope, interest, inspiration, awe, amusement, gratitude, joy, and pride. So we're going to do a little exercise now. Actually, before I do that, how am I doing on time? I'm okay on time. I'm going to read a little story to you. And this is out of the book Everyday Sacred, and it is by Bender. Her first name is Sue Bender. And a colleague of mine gave me this, and actually a really dear friend. And so this particular passage is called Nancy's Door Story. When I work, I hardly ever take a break for lunch. To celebrate handling the manuscript over to my agent, which she was writing, I said yes when a friend invited me to lunch. 2 other women came that I didn't know, and we spent a few hours together, unexpectedly telling each other stories that had moved us. That morning, I had been working on a Doors Open Inward, name of whatever she was working on. And she said, as I told them about this journey, learning to trust things that outwardly didn't seem to make sense, I instinctively placed my hands together, forming a bowl with my hands, telling them of the importance of the biggest bowl in my life. And one of the guests understood the gesture and placed the story in my bowl. And she said it was mid-December and her best friend this other friend had just died of pancreatic cancer. At the time, she was working as the assistant head of a Montessori school. When I went to work that week, I did something I'd never done before. This is now back to her. She closed the door to her office. She said, my fellow teachers understood. No one attempted to disturb me. My office looked out over the front of the school with high floor-to-ceiling windows, and I would sit at my desk and watch each morning as the yellow school bus pulled in front and its cargo of small children tumbled out carrying their Care Bear lunchboxes, mittens dangling from strings, and backpacks supporting superheroes. While mothers laughed and plotted their days together, some of the children made the ritual stop to the swing on the low-slung dogwood tree branch before entering the building. As the week progressed, I found myself getting angrier and angrier. Didn't they understand? The world was not the same. Something had changed. Why didn't they see this? And this is because of the person dying. So she goes on Friday morning, there was a small tap on my door. I could tell by the sound and the placement that it was a small child. I really didn't want to open the door, but I took a deep breath and gritted my teeth. And when I opened the door, there was a 3-year-old Caroline with a plate of Christmas cookies in her hand. Hello, Nancy. I just wanted to give you some Christmas cookies. And she goes on to say, as I bent down to receive the cookies, Caroline whispered in my ear, and I just wanted to ask you, how come your door is closed? She looked at Caroline and said, I don't know why it's closed. Caroline, let's open it. And she goes on to see that 3-year-old gave me a gift that I will have with me forever. Alone, I never could have opened that door. Yet at the lesson I took into my heart will continue to serve me. The world is out there worth living. Although I may need to retreat from time to time, I will always keep the door ajar, never completely closed. So for all of us, that message is even when times are tough and when things seem unfair and when we're trying to navigate through hard days and hard shifts that you're all doing, there's reasons to be hopeful and to keep your door open and to keep a little spirit of whatever it is in those 10 characteristics that you can focus on for the day. So I'm going to ask you to do just a tiny little purpose activity. Purpose can drive, having your purpose and your calling in life can drive you every day to do your best and to be your best because you know why you're doing what you're doing. So I just ask you on a piece of paper or in your head or on your phone, who and what matters most to you? That's the first question when we think about discovering and knowing what our purpose is. Who and what matters most? Second question is, how would you define success in your life? So who and what matters most, and how do you define success in your life? The third question is, what impact do you have on others? What impact do you want to have on others? How do you want other people, or how would you think other people describe you? How do you want them to describe you? If I were going to describe you, what words would you want to hear about the kind of person you are? And the last question is, what makes your life really worth living? So who matters much? Who or what matters most to you? How do you define success in your life? What impact do you want to have on this world and on others? How do you want other people to describe you? And what makes your life worth living? And if you can use that, and it will develop and modify over life depending on what development you're in, what your life is like, who you're responsible for, what the nature of your work is, and also what troubles come your way. Sometimes we have troubles like COVID, where we have to stop, especially if you're one of the ones that had to be hospitalized, and really just reevaluate. So what is your purpose today? And then I want you to just be thinking about, what is your self-care that promotes your purpose? What are you doing physically or not that is either promoting or getting in the way of your purpose? So if your purpose is to serve as a nurse, and yet you're struggling every day because you're not finding time for your physical health, whether that's nutrition, sleep, physical activity, whatever it might be, mindfulness, whatever it might be, whether it's emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, just be thinking about, what are you doing to nurture and promote these pieces of your self-care that are aligned with your purpose and what matters most to you. And then also relationships. How are you taking care of your relationships? How are you taking care of your parents? How are you taking care of your siblings? How about your children, your grandparents, your spouse? And what about the relationship with your colleagues and your patients and your general sphere of community who you spend time with, whatever that might be? And we encourage you, and the research encourages you, that you can be your best self when you're driven by purpose and you're clear about it, and that you do the types of things each day that are self-care in nature to help you be able to fulfill your purpose. So another little activity, and then I'll wrap up with the video, is to have a gratitude practice and cultivate gratitude. And I'm just going to give you some examples, and then I'm going to encourage you to at least identify one thing you're grateful for today. So commit to a daily practice. And there's good research to show that this can improve your health physically and mentally and spiritually. Commit to a practice. Choose a set time of day. For some people, it's right away in the morning. They don't even get out of bed before they identify 3 things they're grateful for. Do it every day. Write it down. Again, good evidence to show when we say things out loud to someone else and when we write them, we stimulate different parts of our brain that engage us differently and keep us more committed to it than when we just think it. Practice the present moment gratitude whenever you can, in the moment. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for being able to have time with you today, and that you've given me this honor and privilege to be able to share what I'm just passionate about in instilling in the world. And I really believe this kind of attitude, this kind of living, can bring us to loving each other and loving in the world and loving our earth in a way that can help to bring down some of those walls of difference and some of the unkindness in the world and the diversity problems, as well as the exclusionary problems we're having. I really believe it at the core and in my soul. And I'm not alone. There's a lot of others that are really arguing for this. So share that gratitude whenever you have a chance. Don't stop when you start noticing results. Keep it a practice, because reinforcing it is going to help you continue to grow, and the universe is going to bring you, I promise you, the more positive energy you have and the more positive energy you send out to all of the people around you and to the universe, it comes back. It just keeps coming back, because you're telling your spirit, the universe, that you want positivity in your life and that you want to be able to feel as happy and joyful as you can. And by doing the positive things I've talked about, you can get there. And allow yourself to be human. We all have bad days. We all have bad times of the day. And for me, it's when I'm really struggling, that's when mindfulness comes so beneficial to me, because I can say, okay, I use RAIN. I recognize RAIN is an acronym. I recognize right now I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling jealous, or I had something that triggered me that I feel this was unfair. And so I recognize it. I allow it to be there without judging. So I don't quickly say, why are you having that? Oh, haven't we been through this before? Or, well, you deserve to be. I don't judge it. I just say, okay, it's there. I'm going to allow it to be there. And then I maybe investigate it a little bit. I wonder what's behind that. What might be, no judgment yet, but I wonder what might be behind that. What did I have something happen today, or is this something from my past, which probably is. And then lastly, just nurturing myself, saying it's okay, Sharon. It's okay to just love yourself as if I were your best friend. And to go ahead and hug myself, place my hands on my heart, whatever it might be. So allowing us to be human. So I'm going to end now with this beautiful video that some of you may have seen. It's been around for several years now, but it's just every time I watch it, I'm just moved and feel so grateful for life in general. There is his name.
You think this is just another day in your life? It's not just another day. It's the one day that is given to you today. It's given to you. It's a gift. It's the only gift that you have right now. And the only appropriate response is gratefulness. If you do nothing else but to cultivate that response to the great gift that this unique day is, if you learn to respond as if it were the first day in your life and the very last day, then you will have spent this day very well. Begin by opening your eyes and be surprised that you have eyes you can open. That incredible array of colors that is constantly offered to us for pure enjoyment. Look at the sky. We so rarely look at the sky. We so rarely note how different it is from moment to moment with clouds coming and going. we just think of the weather. And even of the weather, we don't think of all the many nuances of weather. We just think of good weather and bad weather. This day, right now, has unique weather. Maybe a kind that will never exactly in that form come again. The formation of clouds in the sky will never be the same that is right now. Open your eyes, look at that. Look at the faces of people whom you meet. Each one has an incredible story behind their face. A story that you could never fully fathom. Not only their own story, but the story of their ancestors. We all go back so far. And in this present moment, on this day, all the people you meet, all that life from generations and from so many places all over the world, flows together and meets you here like a life-giving water if you only open your heart and drink. Open your heart to the incredible gifts that civilization gives to us. You flip a switch and there's electric light. You turn a faucet and there's warm water and cold water and drinkable water. It's a gift that millions and millions in the world will never experience. So these are just a few of an enormous number of gifts to which we can open your heart. And so I wish you that you will open your heart to all these blessings and let them flow through you. That everyone whom you will meet on this day will be blessed by you. Just by your eyes, by your smile, by your touch, just by your presence. Let the gratefulness overflow into blessing all around you. And then it will really be a good day.
So thank you. I think we are about out of time. I welcome any questions or follow-up.
If you have any questions, you can just throw them in the chat and I can read them out loud to her.
Got a lot of people grateful for the presentation, Sharon.
Oh, good.
Very much.
Aw, that's so very nice. I appreciate it. Well, so I'm going to give you the gift of your evening back. Since it is 7 my time and probably 6 for some of you, or no, not 6. What time is it for some of you?
All sorts of times. We've got 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Sharon, you were wonderful. Thank you so much.